All right, 2:30. That's when lectures are going to start traditionally. Welcome back to class number 2 of MCTV 43. Reminder, if you weren't here or haven't watched it, the first class is now up on our homepage. I'm going to share my screen and you can see if you go to the class away. We're going to log in and we're going to go see. Oh, they're having a party next door. MC 43, if you go into the modules and click on class Zoom, here's the link for the YouTube of last time. Oh, look at me. There we go. I'm wearing different glasses, but pretty much the same shirt, not intentional. Okay, great. Good to know. Black on Monday and Wednesday so far this week. I won't wear it the rest of the week. I have 2 separate shirts. It's different fabric, I promise. Okay, so yeah, great pause there too. Okay, so booting. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to jump in. I'm going to show you an introduction to the very basics of Adobe Premiere. But before we get into that, I want to talk about a couple of things. How many of you here in person or at home have gotten their external hard drives yet already, or have an external hard drive that they're able to bring or use? Great. These will be important, especially if you are editing here at GAV, because the way that the GAV computers are designed, if you don't save your assets to your hard drive and you shut down the machine, it formats any file. Any file you save to the desktop is going to be deleted. Now, you won't necessarily need them today if you don't have them, but I'm going to give you another week. But we're going to talk about proper hard drive features. So first and foremost, right here, here's my external USB hard drive. It has a USB 3. Again, if you're using the computers here, it needs to have a USB 2, which is, I also have right here. That's not it. There we go. The USB 2 is this one that's rectangle versus USB 3, which looks like that one. I can show all of you. We can talk about it, but you need USB 2 because the computers that we're using don't have USB 3. So that's either an adapter, or most hard drives come with multiple cords. Okay, Geronimo. Again, I also would like to introduce that if you can't reach me and you can't reach Grant, the next most important person to the program is right here, Geronimo Garcia. Geronimo, come get on Zoom so they can see you at least. Okay, there's Geronimo. Geronimo, can I share your contact information and phone number with my class? Sure. Geronimo has keys to everywhere. We'll get you access to here or the TV studio. If you want to borrow a camera, he's the person to speak to, right? Yeah. So that he is a good resource, and I'll add him to the online shell. Since he said okay. I always would like to get his permission before I offer up his services. Okay. We all good? Have we logged into Premiere here in this? It's going to take a little bit of boot. Just note the way that you log into Premiere is not going to be this username and password. What you're going to use, where'd the sheet go? At least the sheet, sorry. You're going to use your G number. Jerry, get rid of my little document that was here.
Oh, yeah. That person that crumbled, I threw it in the trash. I didn't think it was a
You threw it away? All right. For your username, Okay, for your sign in, okay? For your username, email address, type in my.gavlin.edu. So mi.gavlin.edu. What's up, dude? Once you hit continue, it'll prompt you to enter your G number and password. You have to know your G number and password. That's the only problem. So that's always the first class when we start doing this stuff. It's a little clunky, but it's okay. Angel,
Yeah.
if you aren't following at home on Premiere, if you're not accessing that, you can just follow my screen as I'm going to use Premiere, but I am
Alright.
explaining how to set up the computer lab computers right now.
Alrighty.
So. Gavlin website error. What a shocker there. Okay, well, let's have patience for, won't talk too bad, but that's why we have Geronimo here. What's that? That's not me. Oh, yeah. Well, I definitely have therapy. That might be me, so. All right, Geronimo's gonna walk. Has anyone gotten in? Okay, Marty's in.
I'm restarting it because there's all these preferences.
Great.
That's an issue.
Okay.
Restart, try again.
All right. We're just gonna attempt to log in. Okay, we're in over here. We're in over here. Okay, so it's, we can determine that it's not Gavlin. If you have multiple computer errors, I recommend changing a computer. There's also, that is a possibility that it could be messed up.
No, it shouldn't work. You should have created an account, right?
No, you should not create an account. So that's gonna be mygavlin.edu. My.gavlin. You do not have access. Let's change you to a different computer, please. Sorry about that. Okay, let's wake this one up. Wake up. All right, all right. Give everybody a chance to boot up. What? I think I did. I pushed the button. Maybe it's not plugged in. That's a possibility. Check, check, check. Angel, are you hearing me? Give me a thumbs up. I don't know if I'm
Yeah, I hear you. My fault.
great. Thank you. Just wanted to double check. All right. So, yeah. It would be. Geronimo's walking us around and helping those who might still need help. I'm gonna give us another grace period of about 5 minutes till we can get access. And I recommend moving forward that you do this process as soon as you come into the lab. So turn on the computers and start logging in. Because essentially, once we get into Once we're done with the lectures, we'll get into lab time and you can use as much as you want.
My mouse is just so slow.
There you go. That makes sense. In, okay, we're all in over here. You can follow along, but I would recommend waiting. Let's just give everyone else a chance to catch up your G number and password.
We have an internet.
You will.
Oh, G numbers, you gotta love them. This is always this class is like a matter of, so don't feel,
We're gonna turn it off to get one second. This one doesn't have internet connection.
that one doesn't have internet? Great. Sometimes just roll of the dice. When did that happen? When did we get that dragon? That's awesome.
Thank you for the link.
Take a ride, my new birthday present. Hi. Sounds. Hey, that's the one.
All right. All right, so that side is not working. Great. All right, I don't think I shared the screen there either. So everyone at Zoom is
I was watching, you sent me the link, so I was able to watch it
I'm glad you saw it, but the people who are gonna record just are gonna look at the back of my head, looking at the screen, I think, the whole time. So the first success there. I'm glad you were able to see it. We were just looking at some cool Spider-Man montage of him making his suit from the first Spider-Man.
I think your favorite Spider-Man was the Garfield Man.
Garfield guy? Well, I do like lasagna. What are you talking about, Jerry? The actor who acts as lasagna? What are you talking about? John Arbuckle?
Was the last Peter Parker?
The
Not
last
the
Peter
current one,
Parker?
yeah.
That's Tom Holland, right?
No, it's the first Peter Parker. The one after that.
Tobey Maguire is the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew Garfield?
See, Garfield. That's the favorite.
Any luck? Not quite yet. All right, great. Everybody else get in? Noah, yes, no? Okay, let's try over on these ones. Since I'm concerned there's no internet on that side, or maybe this one over here. These three have worked, so this one possibly can work. Let's just like get them all moving. Love technology, by the way, it's great. All right.
Last week.
What?
Spoke to Dr. Adler last week. He said that they got the donor for the TV studios.
Wow, awesome. Okay. All right, we got in with that machine. Are you sure you are using the right G number? The password, I would check your password because we were only with a different G number and password. So just double check that. There we go. All right. We'll give a second. Geronimo, will you help over here? And then I'm going to start. Okay, so waka, waka, waka. Here we go. I am cutting everything that we've done so far from the recorded version because it's just me walking around and watching Spider-Man, right? So I showed you Spider-Man just as a good example of editing. We have multiple layering there. Of course, it was shot and done in 2000, I believe the movie came out. 2001 was Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man?
2002.
Thank you, 02. They had to cut out World Trade Center footage from the first movie, right? Because they filmed it in 2000 or one or somewhere around there. Okay. Thank you, Angel. All right. So today, what I'm going to do is introduce you to the process of we're going to take a look in some basic editing techniques or basic usability of Adobe Premiere, which again, like I said in the last video, is my expertise. We will next week go and be introduced to Final Cut X and DaVinci Resolve. What I would like all of you to come to next week with, and we're going to start the class with like, what are you editing? What do you want footage from me? Are you going to film footage? Do you have footage? That way I can start transferring you. You should use the weekend to get your hard drive if you're going to be in person. And even if you're a student at home, you should use a hard drive to manage your stuff. What you can see is I have my external hard drive right here. It's a external US, none of those have, okay. Can we have IT come to the computer thing at some point? Thank you. Geronimo's here. I have cut this out already, but Geronimo is the person to talk to if you want access to any of the facilities, and his contact information will be on the class portal. I'll put it with the syllabus.
You? Or
Are we good over here?
everyone's good?
Are you?
I checked my number and I know I'm using the right password, but it's like still.
Okay. All right.
Is this your first semester like ever, Megan?
Yes.
sometimes it takes long. Remember that happened?
That did happen last week. Okay. So just for today, you're going to follow along and then sit with maybe a partner and we can watch. We're not going to do a dramatic amount of editing. It's more so just watching. So sorry. Hopefully we can, that is what happened the first week. So hopefully it's resolved by next week. If not, we'll get it worked out. Okay. Sorry. It's always something. That's why we have fun here in the computer lab.
Email and her name and then.
Yeah, at the end of class, will you give me your email and G number so I can submit it to IT? Or you can come write it right here if you want right now, while we're talking about this. Okay, right here, thank you. Your email and G number, please. Okay, so we have our external hard drives. I plugged it in. It's going to, let me just share my, my desktop. And what's going to happen is you can see right here, here's my external hard drive with all of my assets and media in here. So I know that my external hard drive is populated onto the computer. And why is my external hard drive important? Well, thank you. In Adobe Premiere, unlike some other editing software, the way that Adobe Premiere allows for mobility and usability on different devices is it creates what are quick renders or reference videos to your assets. I should probably open up Premiere. What does that mean? So that means that I can open up my Adobe Premiere project and here's a great example. I'm going to open up, so here's my first window, and you can see that I am in Premiere here. And Premiere basically has new project, open project. So new project is what we're going to start with. We're going to create a new project. But open project here, it kind of shows me my recent projects I've been working on, or open project, I could go and find my project file, which I recommend always saving your project files to your hard drive or to Creative Cloud if you have your personal account. I upload mine to the cloud as well as save a hard copy on my external hard drive. Now, I'm jumping ahead. Let's go into new project. We're going to click into new project, everybody. And then we have a project name, we have location, and we have a template option. Well, my name, you click new project. All right. Let me just take a quick look. All right, so project name's in the upper left-hand corner. Mine's looking a little different, I guess. So what are we going to name it? Well, this is important. This is going to be your project name. So I like to keep my files as organized as possible. Why? Because in the past and sometimes in the future, I am a lazy person and a lazy editor. So guess how many projects I have that are called untitled, which is the default name that comes up in the upper left-hand corner. You can see a lot. And how many times have I gone to look for a project and I didn't name it properly and I struggled and wasted time finding it? Now, I've been editing Premiere for years and years and years, and I have Premiere projects that are 15 years old. Can I boot them? Yes, I can boot them. The biggest thing about Premiere is you could still access any old files, but once you bring it into a new version of the editor, you can't go backwards. You can't go and do your old files. So the versions you're running right now are 2023. They should have it updated to 2025 when we come back next week. I am using the 2025 version. We may see a little bit of differences, but apples and oranges. Okay, so I'm going to name it. How am I going to name it? I like to be specific. I always think of my project naming conventions in this way: client, project, date. Okay, why is that? Because it allows me, especially a professional video editor, to keep my projects organized by not only my client, but by my project. So what does that mean? That means our project here, our main client is going to be MCTV 43, right? That is the client. And, or you could even go as far as saying like, hey, Gav is my client, right? So I could start with Gav and I could then say, that's my main client right here. Then I could say MCTV 43. And then I'm going to say lesson 1. And then I'm even going to go ahead and say 01 29 25. Now the date's not necessarily important otherwise, but I do like to put it in there because your project files will save a date in its metadata, but it'll be saved based off of the last time you opened it. So I like to know when my project was created or started. Okay. So we have there, let me just look at all of yours. You can name it whatever you want. You can be as detailed as you want. I don't, I recommend dashes, not dots, by the way. If you're using dots, they tend to make the search algorithm harder to find. If you're gonna like search specifically, the dots tend to not be readable if you're doing like a finder search. Okay, yes.
I accidentally made other projects, so I'm like,
Oh, that's fine. We'll talk about that in a second. Because you, yeah, you're ahead of me already. Okay, next to your project name is location. This is going to be important. This is where it's going to save to, and you'll see that it's probably defaulting to your documents that's under your username. That's for Adobe Premiere Pro. That's not a great place to put it. If you want to lose it, so I'm always going to choose my location, and then I'm going to choose my external hard drive. And I'm even going to create a folder and call it MCTV 43 assets. I'm going to say create. If you don't have an external hard drive now, just know that your project file that you're creating today, you're going to save it to the computer. And then once you log out of the computer, it'll instantly be deleted. So you're going to just have to recreate it anyway. Okay. So I'm going to save this to basically the location. The location is your root, is another naming for it. Okay. Template. I'm not going to do that. And so in the lower right-hand corner, you should all have a create button. And that's, we're going to click create, and that's going to take us to, I'm going to skip this part because that you guys are looking at this. So you should basically have a window that looks like this. Yes, we're all kind of here. Right hand corner, create. After you choose your location, create. Okay, yes.
I do have one question. So in 2023, it didn't have a pop-up for the file location.
Yes, your location is right here. So if you click this, that'll let you choose. Oh, this is the import window. Okay. So let's skip this part. All right, let's stay right there. Okay. Yes, absolutely. All right. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Say choose. There you go. That's it. You got it. All right. Now go to create. We're skipping this import window because it's not necessary, and we'll talk about it more. Right hand or lower right hand corner, hit the create button. You've just created your first project. Now we've got nothing here. So first and foremost, I want to talk about all of these different windows. Before we skip the import media area, but what I want to tell you right now is I am going to let's talk about this. So in order to edit something, we're going to need assets to import into our project. Now, all of you who don't have any footage or are not importing anything, you can go onto, I recommend going onto a web browser, and we're going to Google, I don't know, let's say Spider-Man or whatever. We're going to Google and just download a couple of images just so you have some assets to bring into here. So I'm going to go click on here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to save my image. I'm going to save it to the desktop because who cares? It's just going to get deleted. All right. Save image as desktop. Okay. All right. I got a couple pictures of Spider-Man. Who am I? J. Jonah Jameson, right? Wow, nothing. Okay. Yeah, there, and then I got a pity laugh. That's pretty great. Okay. So what would be great is not only to have your hard drive, but to have what you're going to be filming it, what you're going to be using to film on. Now I'm getting you to choose images because it's just easier if you want to pull down videos off of YouTube or whatever. We'll talk about that too. But let's click over. I'll give you a second to grab a couple more images. If you have videos as a resource, you have that. Adobe Premiere can take in almost any file type into it and can be used for editing. Even images. Images are a great example. You put a picture up. So we're gonna go here. We're gonna look at these windows again. Let's go back to your Premiere. And we're going to look at the basic setup or the basic view. Now, Premiere can look different and be organized in a different area, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But what I want you to do is right here, our project window. So the project window is the one that says project. And right now, mine says import media or add media to it. And this is what we're going to call as a bin. A bin is going to be the location where all of our assets go in our project file. So we're going to click, I'm going to click import media, or you can double click, or you can drag and drop. There's multiple ways to do anything, but first I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click in the import window, and then I'm going to click on the desktop and then bring in my two Spider-Man pictures. But also what I'm then going to do is showcase another option where I'm going to go to my Finder window, and I'm going to go in, I have a folder called Film Noir. I'm going to click and drag and drop the whole folder into here. It's going to tell me, hey, there's some bad files in here. And I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. But now I brought in a folder, which is also been imported, and you can see it's brought in red file, it's brought in audio, which are wave files, and it's brought in some sound effects, and I have a picture of Spider-Man. Okay, so you have all brought in your images or whatever. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, let's go to this first Spider-Man file. I'm going to double click, and we could see that Spider-Man has popped up right up here, right? And Spider-Man has popped up in this window, which is called the preview window. The preview windows allows us to view what assets we are previewing before we put it into our actual edit. So you could see I can double click, and with video, I can scrub through and see where I want it to be. So then we've learned about the project window. We've learned about the preview window, and the preview window allows us to see assets before they go onto our editing timeline and or sequence. Now, let's go back to the project window, and I want to say file new, and instead of a new project, I'm going to say file new sequence, which also is going to be the hotkey Command N. So that is the hotkey Command N, which is new sequence. A sequence is going to be a timeline in our project. And what's going to pop up is right here is our new sequence is going to give me a bunch of different options to select. And basically what we're going to choose is, what do we want our final project, our output to be? That's what we want to select, because if we choose, this is a super important decision to make, because if we choose the wrong setting here, it could screw up our whole project. when we were done and exporting. What does that mean? I shot everything in 6K, but if I edit everything in standard def and I export it, and I try to go, like, let's say let's say I go into my settings here and I choose 1080, but I wanted everything to be 4K. If I work within a 1080 project and I export it 4K, what I'm actually doing is up-resing. And that actually loses quality, which stinks because we're basically going from something we shot that's high quality, then we're editing in a low quality, and then we're exporting at a high quality again. Trust me, it's going to be important where we pick. And I'll show you an example of what to do. But basically, someone's airdropping me something. Yeah, okay. Cool. Well, thank you. Yes. All right, so here we go. Great. All right. Okay, so here I'm going to cancel off of this because, you know, I get distracted easily and it's a picture of me, so I might as well include it. Okay. We're going to go here, take the picture, drag and drop. It's not letting me drag and drop. Why not? Let's see. All right. Drag and drop now it here. Here's the preview there. I'm dressed as Shrek. Okay, there you go. I like Shrek. Okay, now they've made it 2 classes, and now this class is exposed to me liking Shrek. There we go. It's a new record. I didn't talk about it. All right, back at it. We want to go Command N. We're back at the new sequence. I'm going to choose, just as a default, I'm going to choose the 1080, which is HD quality, but depending on the footage you shot, depends on and where the export is. Now, HD 1080 is decent. That's going to be good for YouTube. That's going to be probably good for most of everything you want. But if you're going to project it on a big giant screen, maybe say in our for the Gavies, and you filmed everything in 6K, maybe you want everything in 4K. It's just going to be a decision. And the more that we work with this, the better. If you're confused still about this, come and talk to me and I'll tell you whether or not. But let me show you, Premiere is going to help us out anyway. So I'm going to just default with this HD 1080. And also we see the numbers next to it are our frames per second. We talked about this in the last class, that moving pictures are how many images that you see per second that create the illusion of movement, which is what a movie or a TV show is it's several pictures. So this is giving us 23.96 pictures per second. That is a standard amount of frames for a movie or a film. That's actually kind of industry standard now. It's 24 frames per second or 23.967 frames per second. So that's why I'm choosing it. It gives you other options. We'll talk more about it, but really the human eye can only handle this many, more than this many at once, and it feel natural. You ever watch something and be like, hey, this feels really weird? It's probably because the frame rate is too high or too low. You ever watch like TV with motion smoothing and you're like, why does The Office look like this or whatever? It doesn't, it's because it's over like clocking how many frames you're getting. All right. So you just double click and I got a sequence here. It's called named sequence 2. Now what's great about this is I can go in and say MCTV 43 example. And you can name your sequences whatever. Because I like naming my sequences because we can actually open up multiple projects. In fact, watch this. I'm going to say, I'm going to open project, and I'm going to actually say, I'm going to say file, open recent, and let's open this drone one. And you can see that now I have 2 projects open, right? So I have project drone or I have project Gav, which the drone is an example I didn't name properly. And you can see like the sequence 1 right here is named in here. Well, I know sequence 1 isn't part of this project, but I can have multiple timelines opened. I just did this because the example, if I do Command N and I say sequence 1 here, I'm gonna say, okay, look, now I have two sequence ones up here. Doesn't that get confusing? So it's always better to name them. Okay, I'm gonna just, for the sake of this right here, I am going to close this project. And just so we're working in one project. All right. Preview. So now we have our sequence or timeline window, which is this window right here. This is where we're going to make all our edits. So here's an example. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into my project window here. I'm going to grab the picture of Spider-Man. I'm going to lay it onto my timeline. I'm going to grab a picture of me as Shrek, and I'm going to lay it there. And voila, I put them right next to each other. And if I hit spacebar, I play, and you can see we made an edit. This is our first edit. So putting the two images right next to each other essentially makes what is called a cut, an edit, a straight edit, or and we could see, look, Spider-Man's all small and I'm all big, right? Like these aren't the correct aspect ratios. Now let's go in and actually pull in some video here. So I'm going to actually get rid of our images here and let's see what happens. When I click and drag my video here, it's going to tell me clip mismatch warning. This clip does not match the sequence settings. Change the sequence to match the clip settings. Do you want to do this or not? What it's going to tell you is like, hey, the frame rate's different or the aspect ratio is different. Now, I will have been, if I say change sequence settings, it is going to set up my sequence to match the video that I've imported. The only problem is this the aspect ratio that I want? Is this the element that I want? Sometimes we'll work with mixed media and sometimes we'll work with different frame rates. So and it'll only do this for the very first clip that we bring in. So what I like to do is I'm going to say Command Z, which is undo. I'm actually going to undo it. And then I'm going to drag this in. I'm going to say keep settings. Now, what do we notice that was different here? Was originally the image filled the screen. Now it's all cropped in. Well, that's because my image here was shot in 4K and I'm working in a 1080. So 4K is 4 times as big as a 1080 image. So what I can do is I can actually resize my image. And what's great about it is I scaled down to about 43%, which is up here, which we'll talk way more about. But basically I can fit my image to the window, or I can make it small. But what's great is I'm going to click on my clip here. I'm going to say control, and I have a bunch of different options, which we'll all learn what to do. And I am going to do scale to frame size. What the heck? Well, that's embarrassing. Why is it doing that? Psych. Let me just undo. That wasn't expected. Okay. All right, let's click here. Unexpectedly. Okay. Let me just double check and make sure I'm happy with everything. I didn't mess up. Oh, 25 frames per second. That's probably my issue. 1080, Okay. Let's click into here and drag and drop. We're going to keep settings the same. And then I'm going to say, what did I say? Scale to frame size. There you go. So basically it reduced the size of my clip to fit into the image. Now we see that it's given us black bars on the top and bottom. That's just because we've shot this in a different aspect ratio. So it basically needs what are letterbox elements on there. Okay, so now we have a clip in here on the timeline. Now, here's the timeline. Now, we've been looking at this screen up here, right? And actually, I can go right here. This screen is what's called program. Program is the output. We're essentially watching what, if we hit export, what is going to show up on the screen in the project. So The four windows to know about are our project window right here. I'm hitting the tilde key, which is in the upper left-hand corner. It's like the Enye, the squiggle. If you hit that and you click on a window, it makes the window go full screen. It's a good hotkey to know, okay? So look, I hit that. We can see our project bin that's full of our assets. You can see and looking at this window, we can actually see what the assets are, not only by name, but by type. You can see that right here, we can look and see that it's purple and green. The purple means video, the green means audio. If we look in the audio, it only has the audio icon, which is a WAV file. The video icon is like a film frame. We can also see that like our images come in as this little white box. And then there'll be music cues and there'll be sound effects and text and stuff like that when we get into that more. Okay, up here is our preview window. Okay, there we go. We're looking at our assets up here in this window. Our sequence or timeline will have all of our edits on here. And you'll note that what's important to note about the sequence is this. Let me showcase this. Let's get Spider-Man on here too. And let's get, oh, that's me, Shrek. Okay, and then look, I can control click on here and say set frame size. And we can say control click and set frame size. Now, Spider-Man was small and then got big, okay? So what's notable about our sequence now is what I have done is I have layered my assets on top of one another. And what does that mean? That means I can, basically I have video 1, I have video 2, and I have video 3. That's what these V's mean. The video at the bottom is going to be the lowest level video. And what that basically it's where we're going to start putting our assets. Now with video, we can see, also see this blue line right here that I'm scrubbing. This is the playhead. This is going to be where you're looking at on your timeline. So if I hit play, which is the play button right here, which is also #1 hotkey of your life right now is spacebar. Spacebar, if you hit spacebar, it's going to play. So as I hit spacebar, we see it's going. We're looking at the timeline and watch what happens. Oh, look, Shrek pops up. That's because with video, whatever's on top will be dominant. So we can see that Shrek pops up and slightly blocks our image. But let's say we had another piece of video that actually filled the screen. Great, just looking at there's my face. So now we see one way of making an edit is basically putting an image on top of another image, right? Okay, so this is called the layered edit effect or checkerboard. That means you can put whatever's dominant on top. So you want to go through. And then once we're done with Shrek, watch what happens. And then we go back to the video that's on the bottom. So if there's video that's exposed on the bottom. Now, another way to edit is I could have just taken this image and dragged and dropped it basically onto video 1 line. This is called a destructive edit. Now, why is that? Because essentially I drag and drop Shrek on top onto the same line and destroyed the video that's under it. Because if I pick up Shrek and move it, look, now there's a huge gap, and anywhere that we don't have assets come out as black video, just nothing, right? So I have basically deleted the footage by dragging another asset on top. Whereas had I just moved it here and then moved it, whatever's behind it's still there. Now, is it destroyed forever? No, because what I can do is I can drop Shrek right here. I can say, oh, I don't like Shrek anymore. I hit delete, it's gone. But then I can click my asset here and drag and stretch it out. And this is just all fun stuff we're gonna play with and learn about. We'll get way more detailed editing in here. I just want you to get familiar with the layout basically today and starting to play around with these elements. Okay, we'll get more into detailed editing. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Okay, so that's basically the sequence. The other thing to know about the sequence is we're looking here at video, of course, audio is goes down. So audio 1, audio 2, audio 3. And what's interesting about audio, because audio is a different element, it's not visual. If I layer a whole bunch of different audio, and let me do this. Okay, so right now we can see our audio layers right here is the audio that came attached with our video, which is basically a scratch track. And if I hit play, we can hear the audio that comes from that. But that's not going to be the good audio that I want or whatever. We'll talk about syncing audio in the future. But let's say I also, yeah, here we go. Let me grab this. I'm gonna click and drag. Unsupported file type, okay. You know what? Let me just do, I'm just gonna pull in another audio. Winter, there we go. I'm gonna bring in this right here. I dragged and dropped. Look, I didn't drag it into my project. I just dragged it directly onto my timeline. And guess what happened? Because I dragged it directly onto my timeline, I'm going to hit the tilde key. It's actually populated the asset into my project file here too. And we can see that it's audio. So I'm going to click and drag it. And with audio, I'm actually going to layer my audio. So if this was like video, whatever was on top would be dominant, right? But not with audio. Things become mixed. So let's listen to this audio edit.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, we can hear both layers, the music and there. And the mix is bad. We'll talk about mixing. We'll talk about levels and everything. You may have seen me mess around with the levels. But this is just the introduction. So yes. So audio, and what's cool is like, okay, Tim, I have 1, 2, 3 layers of video. Well, in Premiere, as long as I keep going up, I can keep adding as many video layers as I could possibly want. Why? Well, maybe I'm doing like a grid with like 18 different elements and they're all playing at the same time. Maybe I'm using images, maybe I'm doing some animation. You can have up to 99 layers of video, 99 layers of audio. Have I ever gotten that many? No. But I think the most I've ever worked with is like 26 layers of video audio. Yeah. In like a really detailed, like animated project. And we'll talk about like the good and the bad. The more assets you put on, the more you're going to stress your computer. And that will bring me up to the next element. So sequence, project, preview, program. The program is like how we're gonna, I'm gonna hit space bar. We're seeing how it's playing. I can scrub through.
Sure.
What's notable about this is we can note these numbers here and these numbers here. This number, as you can see, the blue one changes as we scrub through. What that one is our control track. It's actually where in your sequence in the time code is your project file. Now, what's interesting is like, look, my playhead right here, as I scrub through, is at 1 minute, 2 seconds, and 12 frames right now. But what happens to this number at the end? Does it change ever? No. What the number at the end is our control track, which is the time of the entire sequence. So what does that mean? That means that all the assets I put in here on our sequence adds up to 1 minute, 24 seconds, and 14 frames. Now, what's interesting about this is in our sequence, I could actually click all my elements and drag it over here so it's not at the first frame. Why would I do that? Well, sometimes I edit things out of sequence, like I'm going to edit this scene first and leave room for the beginning. I want to move everything over here. And basically I highlighted all my assets, and now I can click and drag it anywhere. But the main difference is look at our project time. Now we're at 411. Well, it's because I dragged my element. It's counting all of the black as part of our entire project. Now, what's also good to note is on the sequence, two more very important hotkeys for you is I and O. I is marking an in point and O is marking an out point. So that means that everything within the in and the out, if I go choose the export, will only come out from the in and the out. So sometimes you don't want to export your entire sequence. I am the type of editor who likes to put all my assets, chop them up, move them to the end, and put them together. We'll talk about, there's many different ways to edit and organize. We'll talk about that in future classes. But I and O, we can note here in the program file that now we have like this highlighted element. Well, that's our in and out points. So I can actually scrub through and be like, oh, I want my in point here. Look, that changed. And you'll note that the project time code here is, this is the duration, the in and out duration. What's also great about Premiere is if you hover over something, it'll tell you the name. Here's the playhead position, like the technical name or whatever. So if you're ever curious about, oh, what's Tim talking about? Or I might use like an industry term that doesn't match exactly, but basically playhead is our cursor, or how it's the blue line basically. Okay. The other things that I want to tell you about before we finish for today is other important elements. Now, this is my standard editing view. Now there's other views. In fact, I can see all of you have the tutorial windows open, which are Adobe given lessons. You can actually watch those instead of like, oh, Tim doesn't know anything, I'll watch the Adobe ones. They're all great. I recommend. But what I'm going to do is if we go here, let's click over here. Let's click on view and we're going to go to display mode. Oh, no, we're going to go to window. Sorry. The window tab up on the top is going to give you workspaces. Now, workspaces are going to be different preset setups of the windows. And what does that mean? Well, I'm going to go in here and I have it set to editing, which is my favorite, but I'm going to go into, let's look what happens if I code graphic. Well, everything just jumped, right? Like all the windows changed. And we can see there, we can see my preview pops up there. And now we have the graphic window that's open over here, the graphic template window. If I go here and go window and I go audio, we can see that it changed. Like it, look, the program window is up here. We can actually, let's go back to my editing. I'm going to go back to my editing one, my layout here for editing. We can actually see that there are different elements that are here in my editing. And what's interesting about this is we can pull out these windows and organize it however we possibly want. And what does that mean? Here's my effect control. So effect control is is a window that's right here. I'm going to click on this and this allows me to control my clip. I can scale in, I can scale out, I can change the position of my video. These will all be like keyframing stuff that we talk about. But if I don't like it up here in my preview window, which I don't, I can actually click this window and say like, hey, I want it over here. And now I get a tab, like I can do my media browser, I can do my program window, and actually now I can also say like, hey, I want this window to be a little bit bigger. All right. And my tools right here, I want that to be small. I just want that to be aligned so I can actually move that. Okay. The tools are different types of tools that we can switch through. We're currently in the cursor, but there's going to be edit tools right here. Look at this window right here. This is our audio meters. I don't need that to be big. I'm going to make that smaller. This is really important, like stuff to know, especially if you're working in a multi-screen environment or a smaller screen environment like a laptop. Your real estate for your editing is really important. So like the sequence and the program, that's why I use the tilde key to make things bigger and smaller so I can jump into. But I used to have a 4-monitor editing bay where one monitor was just the program window, one monitor was an asset window, one was the sequence, and one was just the output. Okay. Again, any questions or comments or clarification, feel free. I'm just going to talk about a couple more windows that we need to pay attention to. But my whole point here is this is like Lumetri scope, which is the coloring of our images. When we do it, get into color correction, we'll talk about that. Also, what's interesting is like, say, okay, I don't like this effect control here. Well, what happened is I put it right there in the middle of the window. See how it highlights there? But look what happens if I go right here next, and you can see the side is highlighted in purple, and I drop there, it puts a window next to it. Okay. And man, I always hate why it zooms over here. Okay, there we go. Also, what I can do with this window is if I control click, I can say close panel, and now it's gone. Okay, how do I get it back, Tim? Well, if we go into Windows, we can actually see that there are many, many windows that aren't even activated yet in this setup. So what I'm going to do is bring back my effect control, which thinks it's its own window, and I'm actually just going to drag and drop and put it back where I like it over here in my preview window. Okay. Now, what's fun about the window is we can go and say, we can go into this, and maybe you don't like any of the workspaces, you want to move it around however you want. What's good is say, save as new workspace, and I'm going to call this Tim's workspace, fave, my own computer, or you can name it whatever you want, right? And you save that workspace, and now when you log in, you can, you log in, you can go, and somebody else might be using your computer and like being this, and it's like, oh, all my windows are, oh, that one didn't even change at all. Let's go to color. All right. No, I wanted a really weird one. Time code. Let's see what that, oh, look, we got time code window there. Workspace. Let's go to, oh, look, I have Tim's super phase, fave. All right, vertical. This is like a design for vertical film editing. Look, the program window is designed over here. So if I'm editing like TikToks, why would I want my small window over here? I want a bigger window. So then I go in and say like, okay, I'm messing around. I move things around, but look, I saved my super fave, and now we're back to that. Now that super fave must have been from a different semester. So here we go. We're back to here, and you can see that we got a whole bunch of different elements. There's a whole bunch of windows, but I recommend today what we're going to do, so especially since you don't have assets, you can either start editing or let's play around with the windows and look about, just getting familiar. You can open up the windows and see what they do. Questions, comments, concerns. We're going to kind of just, this is Adobe Premiere. We're in it. Oh, before we end, I do want to say one more thing. Now, here's a great thing to note. What happens if I show up on a Wednesday and I forgot my hard drive, Tim? But guess what? I have just my project file. Well, if you just have your project file, all you have are digital references to your assets. So what does that mean? That means, let's say I save all my program files on one hard drive and I save all my media on another hard drive. Wherever you pull in your media from, Adobe is going to look for it in the same spot. And what does that mean? It means this. Check this out. Let me open up a project. And I know I don't have my work project. I don't have my work assets plugged in currently. So I'm going to open up right here. And we're going to get this message, is something you'll get familiar with. This is telling me that my assets are offline. And we can know this. It says media missing. So I opened up my project file, and if you do this, it means your hard drive is probably not plugged in, or it's not noticing your hard drive. And it's telling me, here's all your assets from your projects, Tim. And it's looking for the file path. And the file path is telling me, where have I saved these projects before? And I can see in volume, in a hard drive named storage 2, in a thing called burning drone. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say offline all. Oh, I pulled up one that was just an older project. So basically what I'm going to notice is when I click on here, none of my assets are logged in, are online. That's because I don't have my assets there. In fact, let me show you a more practical example. We got Marty's picture of me as Shrek right here, right? Okay, so if I open up my computer, even in this project, we have Shrek right here, Shrek Tim. Okay, watch this. In the project, maybe I'm gonna import all of my clips. In my project, I can go through and I can rename my assets. And it's gonna, let's call this Shrek Tim. If I rename my assets here in the project, no problem. It could be organization. You can get a bunch of red files and be like, good take, bad take, or whatever, take two. You could name it all within your project. But if we go outside of the project, now we're out here. Let me just minimize, hide Premiere. Is it freezing on me? Oh my gosh. I'm almost doing nothing. It might be frozen. All right, okay. I didn't even get a chance to warn you yet, but okay. Okay, let me just do, sorry, let me just check. Is this gonna be a perfect example or what? Okay, great example. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Adobe Premiere will crash on you. You'll stress it. It'll freak out. It'll crash on you. I'm gonna tell you the absolute best hotkey of all time. Command S. That is save. You should be saving your projects often, especially before I render something, especially before I save something. And other editors are going to say like, oh, it crashes less. Yeah, I believe you. It crashes less. Normally doing something this little, I do think I have an issue with my computer going on right now, but it seems to, it's not letting me. All right, my Teams. Okay, let's quit Teams. Premiere, okay. Premiere's freaked out. But I can't get to my, can I get to my Finder? All right, fine, okay, here we go. Let's force quit. I'm gonna force quit Premiere. Force quit, let's see if it's saved at all. Let's say don't send. Hey, look, Spider-Man's back. I'm gonna open up Premiere because there was one other thing I wanted to tell you about Premiere. Hey, look, it unexpectedly quit. Let's reopen. Hey, I've seen that window about 1,000 times. Look, it saved everything for the most part. Granted, okay, we recovered the project. It came back. Awesome. So what I wanted to do was, all I was trying to do is minimize to showcase this. All right, well, actually, let's take a look. Okay, Shrek Tim got renamed, right? Here's Shrek Tim. The whole reason I was showing you is if, let's say, so when we open up this project, Shrek Tim is looking for the Shrek image with its original name. So Shrek Tim crop original in the location that we pulled it from. So we pulled it from the I believe it was what, the download file? Is it downloads? Let's see. No. Desktop? No. Documents? Where did it get? It was airdropped. Where does airdrop go to? Great. Let me just say get info. It's going to tell me that it lives. Oh, it lives in my downloads folder. Okay. Should be in my downloads folder, and it should be Shrek Tim, which may have a different date because it's created a long time ago. So let's just look here and say Shrek Tim right there. Look, we can see down here at the root. It's my user. It's in downloads. It's original. Now, notably, a couple things that you could accidentally do. Number one, you could delete the file, right? Let's say, oh, why do I have this picture of Shrek Tim in my downloads? I could put it to the trash. And then when you try to open up the project, it's not going to be there. Another thing that we could do is like, what if I just say like, you know what? What if I just rename the root? Just got rid of the word crop. What's going to happen here? Oh, look, immediately I get a media offline error right here. And it's telling me like, hey, I lost your asset. Why? Because the computer is looking for that exact file with that exact name. Did I screw up my project? No, because I can actually go in here and say locate, and it'll actually have a whole nice search function. Look, there's a toilet for some reason. Oh, Mudang is pooping in the toilet. Sent that to my kid. All right, I'm gonna go into my user, Tim. I'm going to go into my downloads and actually, okay, you're not gonna let me do that, but we can even do like a search for Shrek. Look, there's Shrek Tim. I know that I renamed it. You can see all the Shrek assets I have on my computer. I'm going to say, okay. And look, it reconnected, no problem. So that's if you rename the file. Now, if we do this, let's get rid of that. If we do this, let's say we undo. Okay, crop original, I undid it. Okay. Guess what? It probably broke it. Look, it broke it because it's now looking for the other name that we named it. So what's cool about this is I'm going to say display only exact name matches. So what's that going to do? It's going to only display assets that look and are named exactly the same. And what I can do is say search. Now, no file found. Oh, because it's only searching that. If I search here and I say search, oh, it's not, it's going to look for the wrong file name because I taught it the wrong file name. Okay. So you can actually make it search your whole computer, but we know it's in documents. We're going to say allow, we're going to say Shrek. And we're going to click that and say original. Okay. Well, that's great. So that's how we reconnect our media. But here's another thing that could happen. What if I just like move that to my document? Now it's in my documents. Did it make a copy? I think it made a copy. Let's see. All right. Let's do this. I'm going to get rid of the one in the downloads. Let's say I move the file. This is like an example of like, hey, I have it saved on my desktop, but I also have it saved on my hard drive. And then I move somewhere and now it's not on a hard drive. Look, the media is going to go offline. Kept me there. Now what I can do is I can say locate. I can say display exact names only, and I can say search. And it's going, let's search my entire, I can choose the root. It's going to search all my files and look, it found it. It's in a different location, it found it. You can say, okay, we've reconnected the media. I teach that, that's the number one issue you'll probably run into for new users. Okay, the last thing I want to do is let's go say, click on Premiere. We're going to go to Premiere. We're going to go to settings and general. These are all our basic general settings. We'll go through this and talk about them. Notably, I want you to go to autosave. And autosave is going to be the thing that saves your butt because what Premiere will do is it'll make a backup of your project file. And what I have it to do is every 5 minutes, maximum 20 projects. It'll mean that your computer will save every 5 minutes in the background. It'll create an autosave file and it'll keep up to 20 versions of that. So 5 times 20 is what, an hour? So once it hits an hour, it'll start deleting the older files and replacing them with newer ones. Why is this good? Well, I love autosaves. It's great because Premiere will crash on you. Back in the day, I have crashed Premiere and lost 6 hours worth of work, to full days worth of work, lost whole projects. Now, the most I lose is 5 minutes worth of work because if I crash and I lose my project for some reason, I can just go into an autosave. What's great about the autosaves too is I'll work and maybe accidentally delete something on my sequence, and I can just click on an autosave and go save that assets, because maybe I'm working on a big giant timeline and I accidentally hit delete and don't realize it 20 minutes later and then come back and be like, oh no, and I run out of undos. That's something to think about. Okay, questions, comments, concerns for, it's 3:45, so I'm going to end it. We'll go into lab. You can play around with Premiere and actually talk with me, but I'm happy to answer any questions via anybody here. or on Zoom? Angel.
I got no questions.
Great, Angel. Thank you. All right, then I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to stop the recording. We'll see everybody on Monday.